Right, so time for a live stream. Hopefully you can hear me, if not, we'll take this off in a minute. But obviously, the thing I did the video on earlier today, this PAPR unit, the German one I've got here. I think the chat box is broken again, so let me do the pop-out chat. There we go. Alright, the contractor. So, there we go. So, this is a German PAPR unit I did the video on earlier. Alright, Thomas. Alright, everybody that's joining. So yeah, it's a type of unit I actually like, so it's good. There we go. So that's it on the higher speed setting. So with this on, it's very easy to breathe with this on, but as you can see, there's quite a lot of volume of air being used. So let's just split this off. So hello to everybody. Flazzy, it does that sort of thing. Yeah, it does work like a Hoover in a sense. Well, it just pumps air basically. So yeah, that's what this does anyway. But the video I put on of it earlier. So Steve and Amy from the nuclear family very kindly sent me this one to keep, and they're going to send me a C420 not to keep, but to do a video on, or a couple of videos on. So that would be good as well. So I can do a C420 video. But anyway, let me put the my glasses on so I can read the chat a bit better. Oh, and I also got a really nice gift from Stug, who's in the chat yesterday. Came in the mail. So it is not an S10. It is totally not an S10 ripoff. It is a Chinese FMJ08 if it was a military model. This is this industrial one, which is the MF22, I believe. But yeah, so not an S10. But yeah, it's so close to an S10 in terms of being a copy that the S10's outserts do fit on it. When I do the video on it, I'll show that. Just like they do on the Checom 90. So when I do the video on this, I'll have an actual S10 next to, this and the Checom 90, so we can look at some clones. But yeah, hello to everybody. I'll try it on. I haven't actually tried it on weirdly yet, Stug. I think it was just because yesterday the PAPR unit came as well, and I needed to sort of learn what I was doing with that. Do I have a GOST filter handy? Because I need really a GOST filter for this, don't I? Where's the filter I normally put on that one? It's an Americano filter. Where is my... Well, tell you what I can do. Because this will sort of work, is what I can just do is put the PAPR unit on it. Let's try it with that. Right. Unscrew the Sieb Gorman from the thing. Yeah, cheers, Doug. Thanks for cleaning it. But yeah, like I said, I haven't actually tried it on yet. It's just more because I was doing the PAPR video sort of today and that. And not that many. I mean, I've got obviously an S10, an OM90, the FM12 CT12, and now this one. No, yeah, this isn't going to screw into this because it's a GOST thread. That's a bit annoying. I should have a GOST filter, but let me just try it on without a filter just for the sake of does it fit me. Yep, the answer is yes. Favorite soda or soft drink? I have to have a think about that. I quite like Pepsi. I actually prefer Pepsi to Coke because I think Pepsi's a bit more syrupy, but I generally don't drink like soft drinks. There we go, but that's not a soft drink, is it? It's a hard drink. But anyway, so for the people asking me, am I going to do a video on this mask, that mask? Only if I already get sent them for free at this point. Because, it's just the sort of thing of space for them and like buying them. So the thing I quite like is when people send me stuff so I can do a video on it and then send it back. I did a video on it earlier, Patrick. Let me just pick it up and show you. So it connects to a 40mm NATO thread. And basically, you flick it on wherever the switch has gone. There. And it provides air. So, you know, it breathes for you, essentially. Probably can't see it doing much like that, but it does work. It's very good, actually, this. But yeah, I'm a bit like you, I'm Alfie. It's not good to be drinking that much sugar constantly, or the artificial sweeteners they put in them. You know, like I said, it's not good to be drinking beer constantly either. But yeah, but it's good. That thing anyway. Let me have this while it's still cold or some of this. The problem is, Hendry, I can't fit them all in one video. It'd be impossible. Right, Nick? But yeah, for the people saying, "Will I do a video on this mask?" You know, if I don't have it, the answer is, you know, it's unlikely. Right, Flazzy, I've explained it all in the video, but when it's positive pressure, it means that, right, so the most obvious thing is it's easier to breathe, right, because you're not breathing against the filter. In the sense that it does the work for you in that sense. So that's its most basic use, but for most people, you wouldn't need them for that. But for infirm people, you know, that's good. So let's say you had elderly people and they were in like some sort of air raid shelter. You could have a PAPR turned on, put a mask on their face, and they could breathe normally, even if they've got, you know, quite weak lungs. But where it's useful is if you're doing intensive stuff, it, you know, obviously means that you're not having, you don't lose your energy as quickly because it's doing that. But the main thing is it makes the mask positive pressure as opposed to negative pressure. So it means if there's a little gap in the mask, it's still going to be a safe seal, because basically what it does is, because it's blowing air into the mask, the pressure in the mask becomes greater than the pressure outside. So it's impossible for gas to leak in, even if the mask splits, for example, as long as it's not a massive split, as air rushes out rather than going in. So for a safety thing, it's really good in terms of if you were in a contaminated environment and you had the option of, you know, a PAPR or not a PAPR, because don't remember with that thing, when it's all connected with the hose, if you breathe without it turned on, you can still breathe. It's just like breathing through a filter normally. They might do sometimes, Nick. A lot of the time they actually use air supply, you know, like supplied air, as in like, you know, with an oxygen air tank sort of thing. Because with supplied air, it means you can go into an environment where there's no air and it will still work. A PAPR still has the same problem filter has, that if there's no breathable air in the first place, it can't do anything. You would, Patrick, but also you wouldn't notice them clogging up as much because it's doing the work for you. What's my most expensive mask? I don't actually know. Like, what I paid the most for, or like that's worth the most? It probably was my M50 that was worth the most, but I gave that stud. We traded it for he sent me some PNV 57As, and I don't know what's in the V95 MT. If you're personally just buying it as like a vest with no filler in it, as in like Kevlar or whatever else, I would not pay that for one. Yeah, as Chris says, self-contained breathing apparatus. So think scuba without the U in it. Yeah, like you can get rebreathers as well. So obviously you get, most standard way of having a mask is the filter. So it filters stuff out of the air that you breathe through, but you're still breathing regular air. Then you've got a PAPR system that does all the stuff a filter does, but it then gives you a positive pressure seal, which is a step up. And then you've got stuff like using an air tank, because using a self-contained breathing apparatus, what it means with an air tank is that you could go into an environment with no oxygen, you know, as well as like horrible poisons in the air, and you're breathing the oxygen from the air from the tank, not, you know, you're not having to filter anything. And then you get rebreathers, which are basically every time you breathe out, it scrubs some of the CO2 into the scrubber unit. So, you know, you basically can, you know, like survive for longer, recycling your breath in a sense. But like I said, rebreathers can be quite dodgy just because of the fact that if something goes wrong, you might not realize fast enough that you're dying. Cheapest NATO ones. German M65s telechase tend to be sometimes like €20, or French M51s are about that price often. No, Marco, if I'd been there, there'd be videos on my channel of it. Whereabouts are you looking at the Russian cap? Whereabouts are we looking? Is it visible in this room? Because I can only see some helmets behind me, as well as the masks up there. I mean, you get Russian, what do they call them? The famous ones. I've got one of those, and I can't even think of the bloody name of it. Ushankas, but when I look, that's not released. I don't know if it is it like released earlier in some places, Comrade Meti, but when I looked, it's not actually out yet. Although I've seen videos of people playing it, it just says coming soon whenever I click on it. Well, first 2 grams of gold, you have to find one that's obviously at the price, don't you? Because the problem is a lot of people inflate the prices of them or whatever. So if you're in the US and you have $100, see if you can possibly get an Avon M50 or an Avon M12, because the US Army and US Police use those. They sometimes do turn up on the surplus market. No, is Kalashnikov about Mikhail Kalashnikov AK-47? But no, I didn't actually know there was that. Depends what you're getting from them, JJ. For the PAPR units, a lot of those for 100 quid is pretty standard. I suppose it depends on what you're buying through them. Oh, I see. So it's a play test that's out. I get you. Yeah. So a play test is out, and then the full game comes out. Yeah. Yeah, I get you there, Stug. Hype's let me know which ones are the good ones and which are like the dodgy ones with Chinese filters. But yeah, I have got some good quality modern Chinese Ghost filters, so I can just put that on it. I just don't have them in the room at the moment. Where did I get the poster? Well, all of these posters are either printed out or just bought online. No, not a paper stream, banana. A PAPR, as in one of these. PAPR, PAPR. Basically, suction thing for a gas mask filter. Sucks air through it. That's its job. Like I said, I've done a video ages ago where I made one of these using a camping mattress inflator, but that overheated too quickly, and it also had way too much airflow. I'll look into it, JJ. But like I said, I very rarely use my Ushanka. It's just one of those things that I might sometimes wear if it's cold enough. Most of the year, I don't bother with it. Yeah, that does look pretty comfy. But yeah, the one I've got doesn't look too dissimilar to that, actually. I think it's probably an older generation than that one, but it is quite a modernish looking Ushanka, the one I've got. It's not like a 1950s type one. I'd assume it was very late Cold War or various Eastern European sort of modernish one. But when it's really cold, I put on my bar suit if I had to do something in the cold. But most of the year, I just don't bother. Oh, and thank you whoever gave me the donation on Ko-fi. It says someone just supported you on Ko-fi. Flazzy supported you. Thank you very much, Flazzy, as always. Let me go on the actual Ko-fi website and then I can check. I've got cesium 137 as a check source, which I bought that was really expensive to get that legally. But I don't have like an element of cesium, if you just mean like the regular periodic table element of cesium. Ko-fi. And I have to log in. Log in. All right, thank you very much for the 6 quid, Flazzy. And I've had something else, Buzz. Right, as I'm doing a stream, I'll tell you what, I'll do the phone off there. I'm just trying to see if obviously I don't want loads of messages to come through when I'm trying to do a stream, but then that's all right. So it's about the life of Mikhail Kalashnikov. Went home to develop the AK, even shows how he competed with Deg Tyre. Oh, I'm not going to be able to pronounce the names. Yeah, sounds interesting. Generally, I prefer to watch films with subtitles rather than dubs, but the only problem with subtitle films sometimes is if the subtitles go really quickly, you end up looking at the bottom of the screen, not actually what's going on. What, Nick? The PAPR unit or something else? It seems absolutely fine. the battery thing. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be easy to break. I mean, you can. Let's get that bit off so I can get out the battery bit. So yeah, let me get the battery component out. Right, so that's the battery component bit. So yeah, I don't think that would be too flimsy. Yeah, I think that seems fine in all honesty. I mean, most of the time it's going to be in the unit anyway, isn't it? So you don't have to worry too much about it being dropped and sort of having a direct impact. But have a look on this eBay page, Drunk Russian, because I was sent this for free if you saw the video. But obviously they're normally sold. Jake, for really cheap night vision, you can get digital infrared, but that's not really proper night vision. Did you like it, Stug? I really like Turkey Shoot, but it's just a shame that the Blu-ray was quite hard to get in the UK. I had to end up eventually just buying that US import. Soviet or Russian gas mask. My favourite one is the SHMS, the Shums, but oh, this bit. Ah, right, yeah. I didn't even realise, so that shows how well it's made that I didn't realise. Yep. Seems absolutely fine. Now you say about it, I suppose I can see that it's not quite the same material as that, but I need to put the battery thing back, don't I, first? But yeah, I think there was a bit earlier where it didn't want to thread on quite right, but that was probably just me. But yeah, from what I saw, it seems fine. So yeah, like obviously you have to make sure it doesn't cross thread there, but otherwise, yeah, seems absolutely fine. I certainly wouldn't think it would be flimsy. It's just, yeah, you have to get it to properly pop on. But yeah, so now you say that, I can see that that is a different material to that, which I didn't notice before. But yeah, so yeah, it was good enough that I hadn't noticed because, you know, obviously with general military stuff, you do sometimes get bits, don't you, that don't quite look right. You know, like the exact same color or whatever. If you're asking, do I have a favorite gas mask? Yes, my favorite mask out of the ones I've got is the Avon CT12. Well, sadly, I'm in the UK, so it's not like I can have a functioning M16 or AK, but, you know, both are fine. You know, if somebody's shooting at you with either of them, you don't want to be shot at, do you? I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, this gun is bad because I'm a gun fanboy. Yeah, you can buy uranium ore here, Wardbros. It's perfectly legal. It's cheaper than that over here. You can generally buy quite big chunks of pitch blende, sometimes like that price. You know, like big bits like that. I'm just waiting for some comments now, assuming the chat hasn't broken. The Shums is a much better mask, Marco, than the GP5, but they're very similar in some ways. Like, it's a similar rubber and similar like metal valve assembly. No, don't have any Russian body armor, sadly. You can legally buy uranium, Drunk Russian, so why would it be a police sting? Oh, you bought something that was legal, so you're going to get arrested. Doesn't make sense. I mean, if it was enriched uranium, I could get that. But if it's literally like somebody is just selling you a rock of uranium, that is not illegal. It's yeah, Stug, you also have all the problems, don't you, of like shipping prices for it. You know, where it does the thing of you know, like where some people want absolutely silly money for shipping it, and then obviously if it's a heavy bit of body armor, then it gets even more expensive. But yeah, so that's that. Oh, let me change the chat because I've noticed it's on top chat, so some people's messages might not show up. Which one's the M60? Let me look it up. Because the US has like the M50. Or are you on about M60? Are you on about a different nation's one? There's nothing coming up when I search M60. There's like GP5 coming up, GSR's coming up. Do you mean the M50? I mean, why would you regulate just raw uranium, though? People aren't going to be able to make nuclear bombs in their houses with it. I don't even know which one the Czech M50 is. Let me look it up. Most of David Hand was able to just buy stuff domestically, wasn't he? Like smoke alarms and things like that. But when I search Czech M50, nothing's coming up either. Or you mean Czech M60? Let me check Flazzy, because like I put my phone. Let me refresh. I put my phone on silence, of course. As soon as oh yes, I did. Thank you. It says you received £6 went off. Fuck it, have another. Yeah, that went through. Thank you. Yeah, my phone would have buzzed, but I put it on silent now because, as typical, as soon as you start streaming, people who could have contacted you all day, all of a sudden, you know, are doing the thing of what's it? You know what I mean? Like, I'll contact him as soon as he starts streaming. Well, I think that fine seems a bit low, unless they don't define nuclear weapon like nuclear weapon. Does that make sense? Like, unless it's just like one of those very broad definitions of what's a nuclear weapon, but you know, like, oh, somebody's nukes a city, here's a $500 fine. Doesn't seem proportionate, does it? If you mean like the SCP fiction stuff in the game, not really. I think the SCP stuff was quite clever when it was originally a thing, you know, like a decade plus ago, but it's turned into like way too much of a like. Oh yeah, speaking of cryptos, Flazzy, just a warning to anybody. I'll do a proper video on this, but it turns out there's a lot of scam kind of apps now on the Google Play Store, and I think with Apple as well. You know, like ones where, because there's a stupid thing where if you, so this is what scammers are exploiting. Say you have a program that's, you can refund the program with like Google, but you can't refund an in-app purchase. So you actually have quite a lot of, so yeah, just use, I know you use Binance and that's fine, but I'm just sort of, I'll do a video properly talking about it the other day, but yeah, there's some really fucking shady stuff where Google's just not taking down stuff where, you know, like people make an app that basically just does not do what it says. Oh, but if you paid an in-app purchase, we're not going to refund you. Yeah. Well, he could have just bought them anyway, David. But I suppose he did that in 2001, didn't he? So it was probably prior to the fact where you could just buy loads online. Well, if you've got a Polish MP4, it will block particles. You know, like most masks do. Not much about servers, other than like, you know, people host things on servers. Ethan, other than when you say intake valve, do you mean just literally the rubber flap? Other than maybe a hardware store getting the closest size and then cutting it to shape, you probably won't unless you buy a gas mask repair kit, you know, that has like hundreds of different parts in. All right, Brightel. Yeah, I had a bad stomach the other day. That's all right today. Gen 3 night vision is perfectly legal over here, Chris. I don't get countries where night vision is illegal. But no, you can buy anything night vision related here. But obviously bear in mind, like US Gen 3 stuff is ITAR banned from export. Doesn't stop people getting it. But yeah, it's just you generally have to pay quite a lot of money for Gen 3. As Bright already answered you, Blade Task Force, the C50 is the 40mm version. The M50 is the one which kind of has the clipping proprietary filters. Are there any good GOS to NATO adapters that are reliable? Sadly, not. Not that I've seen. There's some 3D printed ones, but a lot of those can really differ in quality. That's quite clever. Yeah, that's very clever, isn't it? Having like a dye on the mask that reacts. But yeah. I answer that on like every stream, Marco. So I'm not going to go into long answer. I have played airsoft. I have an airsoft. I have a couple of airsoft guns, but no, it's pretty impractical where I am. Is that a game? SCP Overlord or what? EO18 is what like the coffee can ones. I think I've only got one actually, and it's not technically an EO18 because it's like one of the derivatives of it. But what you'd probably have to do with a GOS to NATO adapter is probably put some stuff on it. You know, like once you've got it, you probably have to put some like silicon adhesive or something on it to actually seal it up so it doesn't leak. All right, Rajiv. Oh, so it's a half-hour long movie. Is it on YouTube? If so, I'll probably try and remember to watch it and forget. As we said, the problem is PDF is a GOST mask. I can't really recommend many good GOST filters. As I've said loads of times, you're going to have to just see if you can luck out and find in-date, like GOST filters either made in like the Czech Republic or, a few things. The thing is, like, GOST is kind of obsolete. It's just China and Russia still use it. But, like most nations don't. So that's the problem that, you can't find many filters. There are some all right Chinese filters, but there's a lot of bad ones. You need to know the exact right models. The one I keep in my CT12 satchel bright hole for like really quick emergency use, I'm pretty sure is the Soviet one, or at least another Eastern European copy of it. I've played the old Dooms, I haven't played the new ones. But yeah, I thought there's no point keeping a really big sort of NBC suit in a satchel. Just because of the fact that, you never get on in time, you need an even bigger satchel. So I've just got like one of those small folded up, throw it over yourself and go to ground kind of ones. Sounds good, Flazzy? Has it crashed a bit in price today? Because if so, that's a good time to buy it, isn't it? What do I do for fun? Play games, see my friends when that's not completely illegal and not allowed. All right, but yeah, so you're hoping it keeps rising then, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you, Brighthole, but yeah, but it's like, because obviously that is better protection, but personally, I'm using it in the assumption that nothing's probably going to ever happen. Sadly, AK, I think they're quite hard to find FMJ08s now, because I was trying to get one for quite a while, and thankfully Stug just sent me one. But, the issue was for absolutely ages. Like, even when I was asking Hype, he couldn't really find anybody selling them. Because the Chinese already went to the FMJ09 style mask. Not many. I've done a little bit of like stuff like Airfix before. It's one of those things I don't really have the patience for, and also, I don't think Nixie tubes look anything like a bomb. It's literally just retro technology. What do they call them? Cold cathode discharge tubes. Right, Radon. Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. Hello, Martin. Jim Bob, I've seen the thing about the woman trying to get crossbows banned whose husband was like shot to death with a crossbow. Right, as I've said before, people are just making weird comments. I'm just going to get rid of because I can't be asked to, you know. Yeah, well, if you're wearing a mask, Time Jack, that will at least protect you. But yeah, you'd hope. The thing is, if they did put them on a thing like an SGC, I'd probably just end up getting the license. But crossbows are not banned here, Drunk Russian, no. But you know, if it's really rusted, there's not much you can do. But can you get something like? The problem is you need to be careful not to use anything that damage the rubber on a GP5. That's because I was going to say there's a few rust removers you could use, but. That's cool, JR. So, any idea why there was Osprey stuff in Poland, or was it just so a Polish person had bought it and then sold it? Yeah, I think it's just been a sort of thing of luck, hasn't it, Nick? In the sense that lots of the time when they're what's the word for it? You know, like because again, there's a lot of stuff in the UK that's surprising that it's not banned, considering how they went on guns. But I think it's probably because there's not been enough serious incidents where it's got traction. All right, Stu. Is that one of those sort of gimpy cold weather looking masks? Yeah, there's a few old cold weather masks that look interesting, but I think people would certainly get the wrong impression if you're wearing one of those. Yeah, like Brighton says, sandpaper would work. Yeah, wow. It's just the problem is that although there's some chemicals you can soak rusty stuff in that's really good at getting rid of rust, I would definitely not trust it with the rubber. Well, I'm in the UK, so bear in mind I can't have a PPK or MP7 unless you mean like an airsoft one. I mean, well, for PPK is a nice little compact pistol. You know, the MP7 is a good submachine gun, isn't it? But again, I've got no comparison to compare them to because I've not. It's not like I can shoot loads of guns and say, oh, I prefer this one to that one. Oh, you're not Drunk Russian. In the UK, the law basically says you're not allowed to have something for the purpose of self-defense. David, the one that's pretty famous for that is the Yugoslavian M1. Well, most special forces are pretty badass, aren't they? Marble. That's why they're special forces. You know, I don't think you'd want to fuck with any special forces, would you? Warbros, you're not going to get an answer from this, are you? You'll know immediately when I've got one because there'll be a video of it. But until you get one that's sold at a price you're going to pay for it, you're not having one. That's how it works. You know, they don't magically appear out of thin air. You have to wait for somebody to list one for sale at a price you're willing to pay. You know, with all the right stuff with it. So, you know, how close am I to getting the bunker? Well, money wise, I'm closer than I was a month before. But, you know, if you had £1 million and then none of the ROC posts ever sold again, you couldn't get one, could you? Right, Stu. It's more powerful than the old £80 crossbows, but it's not as powerful as the Horizon Redback and things like that. So you know, it's one of those things where it's just, I'm trying to think of a way of explaining it. So it's like better than the old £80 ones, where when Mike actually measured them, they're more like £40 draw weight, aren't they? So they're better than the £40 draw weight like old ones. in terms of power, but they're definitely not as strong as the Redback's one. It looks the same as the Redback Prog, but it bends easier. But yeah, just for anybody wondering why I blocked the person who was in the chat just now, it's because he gets spamming random questions. And, you know, maybe he was just curious, but a lot of people come on these streams just to waste everybody's time doing that. Yes, they do give you pretty good protection against pollen, as long as they're making a good seal to your face, because, you know, pollen is generally quite big particles. Gosford and Kidlington, Kev. Yeah, there is, but they built a netball court over it, didn't they? But yes. No, it's just because Warbros, that's one of those questions that sort of gets asked all the time, and the answer is basically, until you've got one, you've not got one. You know, I will let people know, because the only time I sort of have been close to getting one in a sense was when there was one I was thinking about bidding on when it went up for auction, but then they put the starting price so ridiculously high. I was like, no, it's not worth that. The only, as far as I'm aware, the only ROC post that's still in the Oxfordshire sort of area is that one in Banbury I went to do a video on. And again, that's like abandoned, and it's probably been quite badly vandalised. I didn't go inside it. But yeah, the one in Gosford they built over. Near Begbrook Airfield, there used to be not an ROC post, but a little air bunker. But, you know, like Kidlington Airfield, Begbrook Airfield, that one. But sadly, that's been bulldozed. They've not built anything over it. They just bulldozed it. So what's the point? Like, don't get rid of it if you're just not going to use the land above it. But yeah, there's a lot of places where there used to be ROC posts, and they're sadly just like not there anymore, either through, you know, being demolished or just. Because the thing is, they're pretty restorable as long as they've not been demolished, in the sense that, you know, if they're water damaged, all that can be pumped out, and then they can be, you know, dried out, repainted, and everything. Right, Snowfox. Myra is a weird for company, right? So Myra, I'll try and be as objective about this as I can. What Myra do is essentially they don't make anything. Myra is essentially a sales company. So what they do is they buy gas masks in bulk from manufacturers, and then they sell them for more money, and they essentially rebrand them. So the Myra CM6M is one of the Czech military masks. I can't remember which one it is without looking. But basically, with a Myra mask, you need to find out what mask it is that they're just rebranding, and then, you know, read reviews on that. But the prices Myra charge for masks, no, they're not worth it. Sadly, Flazzy, I don't think it is. Yeah, I've got an OM90. So the OM90 is the Myra clone. Well, not even Myra. It's a Czech clone of an S10 that isn't as good as an S10. So there you go. That's my answer for that. Is unless you're getting it quite cheap, I wouldn't bother. All right, cheers, Stu. That's on the Isle of Wight, isn't it? I suppose that would have been a pretty good place for observation posts. But yeah, there's yeah, because like what my criteria basically is for an ROC post is just literally it's for sale, it's freehold, not leasehold. You know, so you own the land when you buy it, because you never want to buy something that's leasehold, in the sense that, you know, you can essentially lose it eventually. But yeah, and it's got all right vehicle access. I don't mind if it's not got great vehicle access. You know, like as long as you're able to park somewhere pretty close by and it's a short walk, that would be fine. But the problem is with some of them is that they basically, the land the ROC post is just in the middle of a field, and all the field around it is not the land you get. So, you know, you essentially have a bunker that you can't drive to or anything like that. Lots of masks smell weird, don't they? It's normally because like weird rubber smells. Yeah, I've not seen loads of M17s turning up, Katie, but yeah, there's lots of American M9s turning up still in the tins, aren't there? I'm assuming it's probably because a warehouse of them has been found somewhere. But yeah, that's Somebody's already got that person before I could do it. The one that spammed the same comment. Thanks, Fuzzy. Oh, sorry. It looks like it's an interesting comment I missed. Do you watch Secret Vault? He often hunts down bunkers, sometimes still in use. Recently got busted by 10 cops and a helicopter for trespass. No, I've not seen that. So Secret Vault's a channel, is it? Let's have a look. Secret Vault. Is it The Secret Vault or something else? Cordite Explosive Factory. Shoreham Cement Works. Yeah, this looks interesting. I'll subscribe to them. Cheers. Whether or not I'll get the notifications when they upload new videos is another thing with YouTube, but yeah, so because they also do it with Geiger counters. There's a SOEX one they just charge more for. And they basically don't tell you what its ranges are. I didn't even get his comment. Yankee with no brim. I don't get it. But yeah, I've had some. The only thing I've got that has a really awful smell, so I don't even keep it in the house. I keep it in like an outdoor storage lockbox. Is the OZK NBC suit that really stinks? It's just some weird rubber smell. Did somebody say something about their granddad's medal or something? That shot up when I was reading out another comment. But yeah, I've seen Life Force, Stu. Yeah, did you recommend that to Mike recently? Yeah, because I like loads of Canon films. Life Force is like the vampire type one, isn't it? Like the space vampires, where like all of London's like burning down near the end of it, isn't it? Patrick Stewart's in it, but only very briefly, like a side character, isn't he? And there's a woman with nice tits in it. Yeah, I know Life Force. What I'd like at some point is to get quite a lot of those on Blu-ray, those sort of films. But another one, if you like Life Force, isn't exactly the same type of film, but have you seen Waxworks? That's quite a good sort of horror film. What Waxworks is basically, it's got the guy who was in Gremlins in it. I can't think of his name, but it's about and it's got David. Is it David Warner? His name? Like one of those old school English actors. He's in it as like the bad guy. And it's about like a guy who has an evil magic wax museum where like when you look at the exhibits, you get like sucked into the exhibits. That's quite good in terms of like, I went in it not expecting much and it's quite a good like film. I would not pay £28 for a filter, no. Especially not like one like that. If you're paying that money, get like a sealed one from a proper brand. Straps are generally the weakest component I find on a lot of them OK9 or voice diaphragms, because generally voice diaphragms are very thin, and straps are, if they're low quality rubber and they've been used a lot, they tend to just snap. That's very interesting. Presently sold out. So what, the tank's really heavy, do you mean? As in like the weight of the whole thing, yeah. When you say military containers, do you mean like I've got ammo cans that I use as storage boxes? You can see some of them piled up there, the grenade ones, and I keep my radioactive stuff in ammo cans. But do you mean like different kinds of storage containers? What is really no House of Wax is the one with Vincent Price in, isn't it? Roger, I think that you can get some sort of compressing thing, can't you, to produce oxygen, or at least, like concentrate air into a cylinder. But yeah, I mean, it's horrible what's going on in India because obviously it's just overwhelmed the health services. That was the major concern in a lot of countries with COVID, wasn't that, it mostly kills the elderly and the sick, which is obviously a horrible thing, but, diseases do that. It's the idea that if so many people caught it at once, people will just be dying left, right, and centre because they can't be given essentially any assisted treatment. Let me. What's the thing called? Let me find the IMDb for it. Waxwork 1988. don't think your comment doesn't really make sense, Kev. You have to rewrite it. All right, CM. Yeah. Have you seen Turkey Shoot, Stu? I think you'd really like Turkey Shoot because I finally got Mike to watch that recently. And who else was it in the chat that said they watched? Oh, it was Stug, wasn't it? So they watched Turkey Shoot. I fucking love Turkey Shoot just because it's like, if you like Mad Max and Mad Max 2, I think you'd like Turkey Shoot. Yeah, I suppose it's like all the gear together, isn't it? That's a good point. It's like with the soldier type stuff, isn't it? That once you've got the armor on, the helmet, the rifle, all the ammunition you're carrying, you know, like water you're carrying, rations you're carrying, everything, it all weighs up, doesn't it? All adds up. Yeah, it can be quite annoying Paradise, trying to find like certain masks, like especially rarer US ones over here, because sometimes just people refuse to essentially ship them, or you know, want way too much money to do it. When you said MT, do I like Lord of the Rings? I do, but I've not watched them in ages. I've never read the books. I read the books of The Hobbit, but I never sort of had the motivation to read the Lord of the Rings actual books. That sounds good, Katie, but yeah. Yeah. Do you have a way of contacting me off of YouTube, Stu? Because if you do, I can give you a link to it, like the link I gave Mike to it. I'm trying to think if you're in any like the Twitter groups we're in or whatever. But yeah, but Turkey Shoot is very fun in terms of like, you know, being an over the top gory sort of video nasty sort of thing. Bronson's an excellent film, isn't it, Flazzy? As in, you know, you said LOTR, didn't you, MT? So, you know, The Hobbit, you know, there's Lord of the Rings, there's also The Hobbit that Tolkien wrote. I can do at some point, Chroma. When I visit Mike again, I'll definitely take it over. But yeah, I really like Bronson. I like that a lot more rewatching it recently than I did when I first watched it. Right, Error Going Dark. I'd say get whatever you want to get. Obviously, I don't know where you are and like what the prices of masks are near you, but do you want a mask that's like really practical for actual use, or do you want one that's you know, like just cool sort of thing? Because that's the thing. It depends how much you're willing to spend and all that. And the problem is when you know, somebody's in another country, I have no idea like what will turn up on your local like surplus stores or eBay or whatever. What are you saying, Kev, about shelters still near airport? I thought they bulldozed the ones that were near the Kidlington airfield. I know what you mean by Garden City, but at least from trying to look on Google Maps, you can't see anything. You can see where it looks like they've bulldozed it. I mean, I don't know why you'd want a gas mask for airsoft, seeing as you're not going to run into gas. But if you did get one, you would really have to reinforce the lenses. If you don't, you know, your eyes are in trouble. All right, have fun, more bros. But yeah, he said he's got a GP5, so he doesn't need another GP5. I mean, I think he should be released with how old he is. I don't see why they're keeping him in there, especially because he tried to go quite straight, didn't he, at one point, and then they still basically kept him in there. But yeah, I won't be on too much longer because I think one of the messages I got might have been about my job, you know, as in you've lost your job or you can start working again. So, you know, that's quite important to check that and reply to it. But the Polish MC1's quite good, Error, in terms of like it actually works. It's simple, but it works. The GP7, obviously, there's one up there. The GP7, it looks cool, but I personally don't think it's a very good design. No, GP5 glass is not all right for airsoft. Literally, most gas mask lenses are not built for airsoft because they're designed to just be basically, lenses, not impact resistant. No, I keep meaning to watch Tenet. Mike said it's really good because Weapon Collectors watched it, I think, a couple of times. But wasn't that the film that came out in cinemas like when one of the waves of Corona was just about ending and like nobody went to see it? But I suppose it's released online now, isn't it? Like in terms of like streaming sites and buying it. Cheers, chocolate muffin. But yeah. Just trying to think if there's anything else to say before I go off. But yeah, the PAPR unit's good, and until Steve said, I didn't even notice the bottom bit was 3D printed, so that shows you how well it was done. And as I said, it doesn't look fragile. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to drop test it because that would be silly. Yeah, the weirdly called in Holyoke, the Israeli children's masks sometimes are really cheap, but I suppose that's because they're too small for a lot of people. Right, there's loads of masks I could recommend you could get, Error, but the problem is I don't know like what your budget is for them or whatever, and I don't know what's available now due to Corona. There's quite a lot of cool Czech masks, as in like the Czech Cold War ones, like Czechoslovakia. So the Czech CM3, CM4, they're interesting enough. But yeah, it's just with Corona at the moment, it's hard to recommend masks because of how much stuff just sold out, basically. But yeah, it's good. It's good, Steve, because like I was saying, the problem I've had with when I've tried PAPR units before that people have let me borrow is I found that they just didn't move enough air. So you kind of think, well, this is probably all right for somebody sitting down. It's like with the Israeli ones, like they're all right. Don't get me wrong. If somebody just wanted a PAPR unit, I think to make a positive pressure seal on like a mask over their face, that's fine. But the thing of the Israeli ones is they definitely aren't, like military kind of ones in terms of like, securely fitting onto a belt or whatever. I'm all right, PC digital download. What do you mean you didn't realize it was actually me? I don't get that, but did this video start autoplaying? I mean, the problem is, Cornholia, you'd hope with all the vaccination that COVID is going away, but the India variant's worrying me quite a bit, just because of how quickly that's spread and all the damage it's doing now. And I know there are other reasons other than just the variant that spread quickly in India. I haven't actually unpacked it yet. I'm assuming it's quite long, is it? Because I saw it's wrapped around a loads of times where you put the cable ties on it. Yeah, GP4s are cool. There's one up there. With the GP4, if you can, see if you can find a Polish civilian mask, because it's actually cheaper generally, and it's a better quality mask. All right, yeah, that would be why. Yeah, slightly fatter and yeah, got a moustache. But yeah, it's more that I'd worry with Corona sort of thing that you'll get a variant come along that's pretty vaccine resistant, so the vaccines don't have the same success rate against it, and then all of this nightmare starts over again. And the thing is, lots of businesses won't survive, will they? That's the problem. Yeah, that's the main problem in India, is basically exactly that, oxygen and ventilators. That there's lots of people who could be saved that will get over it if they just had oxygen for a bit. Like, in what happened in lots of countries. But the problem is, because that supply of oxygen, there's more people needing it than the amount of oxygen. Lots of people are dying who could be prevented from dying just because they can't get oxygen. The M40 is all right, Error. But the M40 is sometimes quite difficult to find. Anyway, I'll be off now because I need to check that thing, because I said hopefully it's that I can go back to work soon anyway. But yeah, anyway, I don't know if, because if I'm told I'm going back to work soon, I don't know when I'll be on YouTube and not on YouTube, other than just doing regular videos for like streaming and that. But have a good evening, everybody. You know, and hope everybody's well. And, you know, I'll let everybody know what's going on with that later on. Right. See you all. Have a good evening.